Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Rouge Rugby podcast. I am Stu Hardy, joined as always by Derek Brissett. Derek, we are recording on Family Day here in Ontario. So, have you done anything with your family this weekend, or have you been socially distant as you have been for the past 2 years?
No, we did a little bit of family stuff this past weekend. Kind of spent most of the day just really hanging out, playing board games, kind of some stuff like that. For the rest of the Sunday and Monday is just watching rugby though, man. It's the middle of the MLR season. There's I ignore my family for the most part now on the weekends. It's not always the best situation for them, but hey, we got a day off on a Monday, so I was able to grace them with my presence this time.
Well, all my family's back in the UK and they're working today, so
is Family Day a UK thing?
Absolutely not. I believe it is purely Canadian/Ontario that does Family Day.
Other provinces have holidays today. There's just a variety of names that are used across the country. So it's not always family.
This just seems to be miscellaneous day or arbitrary day. Yeah. So it's not always family. It's not always on this day. It's just an extra holiday for at the start of the year, so we don't all get depressed waiting for Easter.
Yeah, exactly. It's just have a day off and enjoy it.
Now, if there's anything to be enjoying over this weekend, as you mentioned, it is MLR rugby. And for the first time after 3 weeks, the Arrows can finally say that they are in the win column after a thriller in the gold mine. Not only was this the first victory in the gold mine, the first victory ever over NOLA Gold, and narrow score, 23 to the Gold, 24 to the Arrows. And we've got a lot to talk about in this game. And let's start off with, let's say someone returning to the gold mine. It's not just the Arrows. There's a particular player. And, you can say, oh, Kyle Bailey, he used to captain for the Gold. Maybe he has an affinity for NOLA. Maybe he'll, pull his punches. Nope. He he made that very clear within the first 6 minutes, being the first try scorer of the afternoon. And, remarkable play. Setup came from a new signing, Brock Webster, who we'll talk about later. And then the ball was passed out wide. And Bailey then runs in and for about a split second becomes a brick wall to a NOLA tackler before nailing it down in the corner and then having Sammy the Boot convert. What do you make of this try?
Yeah, well, for one, brilliant start to the game. Can't really ask for much better. And I think, one of those things too, it's a great story. Obviously, Kyle Bailey, former gold captain, right? It's fun to kind of think back on MLR history. And there was a time where an American team actually had two Canadian captains with Kyle Bailey. And then obviously Eric Howard, who was still there, but he's not the captain anymore. So that was kind of fun. I guess a little fun side thing. The next try of the game was scored by Eric Howard. So plenty of Canadian content in this one going around on both sides of the ball, crossing the whitewash anyways. Obviously, like you said, it's just a great story, having Bailey returning to his former team for the first time in the town that, he was a beloved player, right? We kind of saw their reactions when the trade happened, right? A lot of NOLA fans were sad to see Bailey go. And, so it's really cool that he was the guy that kind of got the ball rolling for the Toronto Arrows. And I think, as this game kind of went on, I thought Bailey played outstanding as well. Like his work rate was off the wall. He was making his tackles. He made Eric Howard, Cam Dolan, whoever else they had jumping, just their life absolutely miserable in the line out. So Bailey was just outstanding. Great to see him. And like I said, it's just a great story. It's awesome. Always fun to see guys, go back and playing against their former teams or in front of the fans at their former clubs and stuff and put in a great performance. And I mean, I'm sure that try probably meant a lot to Bailey, as did, the eventual win for him too. Cause it's one of those things where it's like, you can tell immediately from the opening kickoff, how like motivated Bailey was in this game. And I think we'll probably get into it a little bit more with some of the lineup decisions that Peter Smith made going into this game. That back row was absolutely stacked. Bailey, Rumble, De La Vega, that's insane. So nice to see it work out really well too.
Well, not just the back line. It seems that the entire squad was the strongest we've seen this season. And obviously that had paid huge dividends, as we mentioned Bailey, that back line, having Sam Malcolm back on the team was a huge thing. Brock Webster coming in straight to the wing, obviously, well, as we'll mention later, will have a big impact. However, I do feel that there are a few things that need to work on. But first of all, we want to talk about a law that's in place in MLR, which we've had issues with. Lots of Canadian support, lots of North American rugby supporters have had issues with it. And this is the scrum reset law that's in MLR. So for those that need a little refresher, is that in MLR games, if there was a scrum, there was only allowed one reset. And after that, if there's any error, the referee has to make a decision of it being a penalty or a tap and go penalty or free kick, as you will. And I understand why MLR have done this, because they want to keep the flow of the game going. The issue is when it comes to being within 5 meters of the try line, which happened for the Arrows and came as a detriment to them. And this was particularly the case towards the end of the first half.
Yeah, so I think it came up a couple of times actually in this game, and I did want to bring it up because it's like, and this isn't going to be like, this isn't anything against, the CERT or the officials. I think they called the rules correctly. It's just, it's a bad rule.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think there's 2 incidents in this, right? The first comes, just after the 23rd minute where Malcolm May gets his yellow card on the professional foul because he kind of tugged on the back of Rumball's jersey as Rumball was going for a pass, and then may or may not have resulted in a try, but enough, certainly enough to give Malcolm May a yellow card. And the Arrows do the smart thing, being right in front of the post, knowing that a forward just got a yellow card. They ask for the scrum, right? NOLA then elects to not bring in another back, to make up the numbers. So it's a good Arrows scrum versus 8-man versus 7-man scrum. And the first scrum, they earn the penalty. They play advantage. JP Duplessis makes a nice hit on Mitch Richardson, forces a knock on. They come back for the advantage, or they come back to the scrum penalty. The Arrows win another penalty, right? And then at that point, they can't
take another scrum.
Right? They can't do it. So the smart thing, based on where that penalty is, right in front of the post, the smart thing is at that point to just kick for the points instead of kicking over to the corner or whatever. The smart thing is just to kick the points, which is what they did. And so but it also kind of feels like, in a way, at that situation, at least to me, it kind of feels like NOLA got away with keeping 4 points off the board.
Yeah.
Right? It kind of feels like that. The one that I find interesting, though, which is the moment that I think in this game, and I know, so here's the thing. I know that this rule obviously comes up in every single MLR game, but we are an Arrows podcast, so we'll bring it up mostly when it affects the Arrows. Yeah. And it's like, there's obviously been a lot of rule changes that the MLR has made and that World Rugby has made that are now in MLR. Some of them are good. Some of them I'm indifferent on. This one is just kind of like, I think there's a moment in this game where it really illustrates the flaw with this law. And that comes in. So there's an Arrow scrum 5 meters out. The first scrum goes down really quickly. The second, right, they reset. Go back and listen to the audio. Cole Keith shares some thoughts on the NOLA front row there. And that's my favorite version of Cole Keith when he's that confident to let the other team know about it. The second scrum also goes down. And I'm going to just play some of the audio because the Sir blows the whistle, stops time. He goes and has a conversation with Cam Dolan and Matt Harmon, and I'm just going to play the audio from the Rugby Network right now.
Number 1 is hinging. Next one, he's got. Wait, you have to play. Sorry? Wait. Penalty here.
Oh yeah, Stu. So when you're listening to that conversation, right? You hear the official calls over Matt Harmon, the prop for NOLA, and calls over Cam Dolan, right? Gives a verbal warning to Harmon saying you're hinging, and if you do it again, you're gone, right? Implying that on like the next scrum, if you bring it down, right, it's going to be a yellow card, right? That's how I'm listening to that conversation?
Yeah,
right?
that's fair.
That's fair, right?
Yeah.
He then turns around to the Toronto Arrows and informs them that they can't pick a scrum. They have to play it.
Yeah.
Or kick for the line out.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, that's where I think like the flaw in that, right, is that the ref is literally, he's
giving a warning, and then saying, you can't, we're not going to have that environment of which you can make that error again.
Yeah, exactly.
I think you're right, because the issue that I've found is that, so in other leagues where you don't have a limited number of scrums, if you are within 5 meters of the try line and you're defending and the scrum keeps making errors or causing penalties, it's kind of like baseball. It's like 3 strikes and you're out. Or in this case, 3 penalties, and then it's a penalty try. And this is what I think that can be improved for MLR going forward. And it's really simple. Instead of just having 1 reset, you have 2 resets. So it's if you mess the 3rd scrum up, then it's a penalty, because in that case, you can then have the environment in which case you are 5 meters out from the try line. And if it's the 3rd scrum that you concede a penalty on, whoever made that error, they get sent to the sin bin and the other team gets a penalty try.
So the thing is like, I don't think Federico Anselmi is like necessarily is calling this wrong.
No.
Right. Like I said, it's the rule, right? Like he's not, I think though, so interesting, like for what you said, right? Like that's the thing that we're looking at here is he's warning Harmon, but it's not going to be a scrum after that, right? So it's like if I'm Matt Harmon or if I'm Cam Dolan, I'm just like, they're going for a line out anyways. And then ultimately they stop the line out, right?
Yeah.
Right. Or they stop the play following the line out. So it's like if I'm Harmon and Dolan, I'm kind of like, like, hey man, we'll take that. Like, get a warning, and then we stop them and we go to the sheds for halftime. Like, that's fine, right? I think I kind of agree with what you're saying in the sense that maybe give that you have to have that 3rd scrum to create that chance for the yellow. Or I think like perhaps the other option is just if an official feels the need to give a warning to a player for bringing the scrum down on the 2nd scrum reset, maybe you just pull out the yellow.
Yeah.
Right. Like maybe you just have to maybe that's going to feel, maybe that'll feel cheap because it feels super fast. Like you said, it's like, usually it takes more than 2 to do it. But if this is the rule that's going to be in place, right, I think then you have to do something about it. So it's like maybe you just go quick draw on the yellows at this point, especially in this position on the field, because I think the thing that ultimately I don't like about the rule, and I mean, you see what other people necessarily don't like about the rule either, is just that it feels like the team that is, losing the scrum battle, right, kind of gets a get out of jail free card.
Yeah.
Whereas the team that's dominating the scrum isn't actually really able to assert that dominance, right?
Yeah.
Because quite frankly, like depending on the construction of your team, right, across MLR, it's like you have some teams that are better at scrummaging than lineouts, and you have some teams that are better at lineouts than scrummaging, right? Like in that situation, different teams might want to do different things depending on what they're good at, right? And I think that for the teams that are good at scrummaging, this kind of takes away from their ability to do that. And the other thing that I think came up too regarding the scrum, and I'm going to skip all the way ahead to the end of the game here, and we'll come back to the stuff that happened in the middle of the game, is at the end of the game, right? You recall at the end of the game that there was an arrows knock on, right? And NOLA got a scrum. I don't know I guess 35-ish meters out, maybe 15 meters in from the touch line, right? Which is probably decently kickable, right? With the arrows up only by 1. And if you kind of watch that scrum, the first scrum instantly goes down, like doesn't even have a chance at staying up. And then the second scrum, there's the hit. And Devereaux Ferris is, I don't know, like waiting for the planets to align properly. I have like, right, takes forever to put the ball in, right? To the point where like Brody's sitting there like with his hands up, right? And Selmy's like, dude, like put the ball in. Like, what are you waiting for? Right. And watching that, and now obviously I'm not in the head of Devereaux Ferris. I don't know what he's thinking. I don't know what NOLA's thinking. But to me, it looks like you're looking at the scoreboard being like, a penalty wins this game.
Yeah.
Right. I'm like, and like the only thing that I could think of for why he took so long to put that ball in, because obviously he could put the ball in because the ball went in perfectly fine and then came out relatively quickly.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not like that channel was blocked at all. He's just waiting.
Yeah.
Right. And the only thing I can think of is watching that. I'm like, you're trying to draw the second reset.
Yeah.
Which is going to result in potentially an arrows penalty or maybe a quick tap or maybe like an arrows penalty where you can just kick for the points and win the game.
No, a NOLA penalty.
Or sorry. To win a NOLA penalty. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Right. You know, to win the game or like, and it's just like, man, I think that's weird. And especially too, because if you watch a scrum that happens about 2 minutes before that, right, which is the arrows put in, NOLA has a huge push.
Yeah.
Right. Because they're trying to turn the ball over because they need the ball to win the game. Right. Yeah. And it's like those two scrums look completely different. Like it's, you know what I mean? I don't know. I think, again, I don't think the referee necessarily did a bad job calling this. It's not on
it's
him.
Just a bad rule.
Yeah. And I think his conversation and Silmi's conversation with Harmon and Dolan, just as you're hinging, the next time you do that, you're out, turning around to Shepard, and I think Brody had the ball. I think he was talking to Brody too. Yeah. Turning around to Shepard and Brody to be like, you can't pick scrum again. Right. Yeah. Which is also like, you know what I mean? So it just feels flawed. The rule as a whole is flawed. So I don't know. That's my rant on the scrum rule. It comes up in every single game, obviously, but in this game, it just kind of seemed like it was magnified and bugged me a little bit more than normal. No, but it's also backed up by like, I don't think we've had a ref
explain it
like that. You know what I mean?
So, no, I get it. But, all right. So, okay, we're moving on. We're going back to the halftime whistle. We're now talking about like the second half. And this is when it looked as though it was going to be like the same old script of NOLA versus Toronto, of the gold coming away with the win at the end, because within 6 minutes of the restart, we had Carl Myers try. And then 9 minutes later, we had Feeks scoring as well. And I think so for Myers try, if you watch the replay, you can see that there is a huge gap in the Arrows line, on which he's like, oh, an open door? Why, thank you. Walks right on, sprints right on through, offloads it, offloads Eric Howard, who then gets smashed by Sam Malcolm. But it's too late because he's already offloaded the ball to Maya, who then scores the 7-pointer under the post. And then we have Feeks, who collected the ball from... So the ball was kicked out and it was a counter-attack. And again, there was a massive gap in the Arrows line. He was able to waltz, player was able to waltz on through, then offload to Feeks. And I believe this is the one where Gaston Mires ran over, tried to tackle him into touch. Unfortunately, now I know I'm biased, but watching the video back again, I believe that Mires got him into touch, but the referees said that, and the TMO said, I think the TMO was inconclusive because his Feeks' body was in the way, so they couldn't see from that angle. So they had to go with the on-field decision, which was a try, which was a pain. But anyway, but it still doesn't matter because I believe it shouldn't have gotten to that point, in my opinion. Though it's those lapses in defense that allowed for 2 easy tries, one of which was automatically converted. And I believe that one was not so.
He missed. He missed one
so,
and then one. One was the 7. Mayor's try was the 7, and then
Mayor gets the auto conversion for his try, but can't get the conversions for his other try. I'm just saying, not when you need a.
They don't have Sam Malcolm. Touchline kicks are hard for other.
No. Well, I mean, even Malcolm couldn't get the second touchline.
Malcolm was good, man. Malcolm
he was good, but I'm just saying he only got one conversion.
4 for 4 on penalties, one out of 2 on the conversions. It's good.
And I'm not discrediting
both tries were on the touchline too.
So that's what I'm saying. It's like if you're gonna miss one, it has to be the most difficult opportunity. Yeah. Like if you're 10 meters in front of the sticks and you miss, you're allowed to miss a stick. But at the same time, though, those gaps in defense, you can't get. You obviously can't get away with them, because NOLA were able to capitalize immediately. And I don't know, maybe it was just like a communication error amongst the team. Maybe it were obviously the counterattack. You have to make sure that you're onside when everything's being restructured. Yeah, kicker has to get in front. That I can say, okay, maybe there was a bit of overlap issues and errors, fine. But for that wide of a gap at that distance out, of course, NOLA were going to waltz right on through. Yeah. I think that's something that will need to be addressed for the rest of the season, because you will not get away with that.
Okay, so overall, I think the defense played really well in this game, and I think it was kind of evident at the end of the game, especially. Mm-hmm. Obviously, though, tries happen, and sometimes you got to figure out why tries happen, right? I think the Carl Mayer try. Yeah, I think NOLA did a good job opening up the Arrows defense on that one. Coleman had that really nice kind of break where he was, cutting, coming in on an angle, able to offload to Harmon. And I know you mentioned it, Sam Malcolm lights up Harmon. It's very rare that you see a fly half hit a prop that hard. It's a shame that it's a second too late, but if you're not aware of what I'm talking about, go back, rewatch the Mara try, just watch Sam Malcolm or whatever. It's a unreal hit. It's just half a second too late, but also good on Harmon. Take a hit, make a play. Good, that's
draw the man in. And
sometimes that's what you got to do. But I don't think Harmon expected to be hit that hard by a fly half.
Absolutely
not. It's unreal. Which I think we'll talk about Sam Malcolm a little bit later, because his defense in this game overall was outstanding, I thought. But, I think obviously Coleman comes in on the angle, kind of draws defenders, gets guys turning their hips, the pass to Harmon. Mayer's able to come in through, from the fullback position as the support for Harmon. It's a good play. You don't want the gaps to be opening up and stuff, but no. Obviously not, right? And you got to figure out why that gap opened up or why nobody marked Mayer.
Yeah, I haven't had the chance to go into full depth into how that try occurred. Maybe it was a case of the previous ruck. There's a player just out of position, and
I think for the most part, Coleman does a really good job just drawing guys, having guys turn to follow him, and that creates the space.
But this is the thing: if I can see a gap that big and I'm just watching, then clearly the pros.
Well, yeah, they did see the gap. That's how they scored.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's why you can't get away with it, because they scored and they didn't get away with it.
The second try, though, I think is the second try. I mean, I think obviously the big negative is that it's a shorthand. They gave up a shorthanded try. Second game in a row, they gave up a try while up a man with a yellow.
Yeah,
right. So obviously that's a negative. That's a negative on the try immediately, is that it's a shorthanded try. I don't even know if shorthanded try is a rugby term, but whatever. Canadian podcast will use terms from hockey sometimes. But I think looking at that play, there's NOLA gets a nice steal, creates a nice turnover on the Arrows. There's the kick through, or a kick of just a kick downfield, which Mirez gathers and then kind of hesitates, takes his time a little bit. And I think Pat O'Toole comes down and Mirez tries to step him, and Pat O'Toole makes a real nice tackle on him.
That was a
that was
like smart, nodding through gritted teeth. It's
it's a really nice tackle, right, to kind of shut down that counterattack instantly.
Yeah.
And then Malcolm kind of kicks it back upfield, but it's deep and it just goes right to NOLA, and there's no real kick chase on it.
Yeah.
And same thing, Mayer just comes in through the back, right?
Yeah.
And then it's on the outside, and it somehow ends up being a 2-on-1. And I think it's Brody. I think it's Brody on the wing too. Like I'm not.
Yeah. That's what I mean about players being out of position. You know, you need to have Malcolm ahead of everyone to make sure they're all on side.
Yeah. And that's obviously that try. But I think that try too is a thing that I'm like, nice turnover by NOLA, excellent kick chase by NOLA, leads to a counter attack. Like it's a good, I mean, you don't want to give it up. You certainly don't want to give it up, especially with being up a man. You definitely don't want to give it up. But I mean, it's similar. It's in a weird way, it's kind of similar to that try they gave up, sort of similar-ish to that try that they gave up to LA, just in the sense that the team that was down a player kicked the ball forward, or like kicked the ball downfield, and the Arrows didn't handle the kick necessarily well. Not in the sense that this time, like in LA, it was just hit the deck, no one caught it, right? Yeah. This one, obviously, Mirez caught it, but like a really good kick chase, and no one other than Malcolm really there to back up Mirez either. Yeah. Right. And then just kind of led to, we have to get like kicking the ball back downfield. NOLA had everybody where they wanted everyone to be on that counter attack. So I think that's kind of like, so it's like, yeah, it's a defensive lapse, but it's also, I think there's also a little bit of a defensive lapse, a little bit of NOLA making their own luck happen a little bit on that play. But you know, and I know that you were texting me during the game. You were quite upset during the game. And I said, like I said last week, man, don't panic. So let's talk about the rest of the game, because this turns around real fast.
Okay, so there were 3 tries in the second half, and we've talked about 2 already. Now we have to talk about try number 3, which really put the wind back in the Arrow sails. So let's say that you're Brock Webster. You've officially been signed for the Arrows on Tuesday, I think it was, because it was after we recorded our podcast. So otherwise we would have talked about it last Monday, and we didn't. So it was. So you officially get signed on Tuesday. The team list is announced on Friday, and you're immediately starting on the wing. So within the first few minutes, you get the ball and you're sprinting down. You're about to score a try. Unfortunately, there's a NOLA player there who prevents you, but you know, the rest of the team pass it off. Carl Bailey scores a try. All good. Then it's another scrum penalty, a scrum free kick. And then you have Ross Brody pass it out to, that's right.
Malcolm. It's Malcolm Jones.
Malcolm to Jones. And then Jones does the miss pass out to you. And if you watch it in real time, you think, oh no, it's going to be an interception try by NOLA. But obviously, rewatching it, I was wrong. It was Brock Webster grabs the ball, sees a direct line for the try. He probably even had space to take a few steps in off the line. But, you know, the quickest way to a destination is a straight line. There he goes, downs the ball, try on debut. Unfortunately, as we said, it was a touchline try, so Malcolm has difficulties and misses the conversion. But the momentum swings back into the Arrows' favor. But also excellent on defense, excellent on attack. And afterwards, you get told, hey, put on this headset. Why? You're the man of the match.
He was the man of the match. I don't know.
So,
there any debate?
Impressive 5 days for Mr. Brock Webster. And welcome to the MLR.
Yeah, I was going to say, is there any debate that he was the man of the match in this game? Like you said, it's like the try is obviously a huge moment. He had like 85 meters carried in this game too, and they all felt big. Like every carry felt really big and important. And I think he only had like 5 or 6 carries too, and it's like they were all huge.
Well, 2 of them were obviously critical.
Massive. Led 2 tries and was a try. But like even that though, and it's like I think what kind of impresses about his game in this one, like the build up to the Kyle Bailey try, right? Which also included like a nice line from Rumball, really good offload. That was really well worked by the Arrows attack. Love to see the Arrows attack starting to click and gel a little bit now. But it's like the impressive thing on that is like Webster comes all the way around from like his opposite wing to make that happen.
Yeah.
Right. And to be there to get that ball and takes it down. And I don't remember who the NOLA player is. I'm sorry, but like great tackle to stop him. I would consider it a try saver if a try wasn't scored 30 seconds later.
Yeah. When Brock Webster scored his try. Because like I said, if you watch it, you think like, the missed pass, there's a NOLA player coming in, think it's going to be an intercept try. Obviously, when you go from the other angle, you realize the player is too far out and the nearest thing he can do is tackle Webster. And by nearest thing, I mean he's still half a second behind, which means that Brock Webster's already made 10 meters down the line by the time that's happened. But as in, what a signing to have.
Yeah.
My only question is, why didn't you sign him 2 weeks ago? Why are we waiting this long to get him?
Obviously great debut. I mean, we're talking about the tries, we're talking about the carries and stuff that he made. But it's also, one of those things where you kind of look at, he had a charge down in this game too. He played really well on defense. The goal didn't really have much going for them out on the wing. I thought Webster did well defensively. It's a hell of a MLR debut, man. So obviously, that's big way to make your presence known in MLR, and hopefully get to see a whole lot more of Brock Webster going forward, because that was certainly exciting to watch. And I mean, I think that back three combo of Webster, Mirez, and Hood worked really well. So hopefully we start to see some big things going forward from that.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. Having watched enough Australia versus Wales matches in my life, I was on edge until that ref blew the final whistle, because I've seen games where a team's been leading only to lose it in the final play because they allowed a try to come in or they conceded a penalty. But thankfully, we can say the Arrows are now in the win column for 2022. Long may it continue.
Like, how great was Sam Malcolm at the end of the game too, though, to seal it, right? Like the two super clutch penalties.
Oh yeah, that was, and those penalties were really important. The problem is, so I was watching the highlights just before we were recording, and they and you can see the players looking for Sam Malcolm. The problem is that he's on the floor because he's just been floored by a tackle or a ruck. So they have to like find Spencer Jones, who obviously has the legs to kick it into touch. But Malcolm, fresh off the injury list, and NOLA Gold looking with all intent to put him right back on it. But
no, Malcolm's a tank. Dan Moore said he has the heart of a lion for a reason. Like I said, I don't know how this guy's alive. He's got the heart of a lion, ice in his veins. Seems like he'd be a medical marvel. Pretty sure, like, whatever his birth certificate says, if it says New Zealand, it's a lie. It's from like Krypton or something. Like it's unreal. You look, like you said, it's like the whole game. Obviously, the having his boot back just so clutch. Like he's the best kicker in the league. Like he's just money every time. And you look at it. Look at this game. That it was a huge difference.
Yeah.
So Mayor did not kick well.
Yeah.
Right. Mayor was, what was Mayor total in this game?
Mayor was,
let me double check here. He's
two out of 3 penalties and 0 for 2 on conversions.
So he was 2 for 5 total. Right. That's Malcolm. Like that's the difference.
Yeah, Malcolm was 5 for 6.
Was clutch kicking.
Yeah.
Right. And obviously that's the difference at the end of the game too.
Yeah.
Right. Which, he puts up the 2 penalties in the final 10 minutes. But like you said, man, it's like he takes hits better than probably any player in the league. And that's even going back to like his performance in that, the semifinal versus Seattle in 2019, where it was just just keeps getting up. It's amazing. on defense, like we said, we kind of, I mean, we're kind of, we talked about that hit, that tackle that he makes in the build up to that mare try, which obviously, like, I mean, NOLA scored. So maybe not the most effective overall tackle, just a hair too late. But look at the rest of the game, man. It's like he had so many hits just on defense, whether they were forwards, whether they were backs, any position. It's like if they had to run towards Sam Malcolm put them on their back, man. And he's outstanding, right? Yeah. And it's like, and then like his defense is mind-boggling. Like, I mean, like I said, Dan Moore calls him said he had a heart of a lion for a reason, man. Like, his like tackling form is spectacular. It's fantastic to watch. And then obviously you also get his ability with ball in hand too, right? The ball distribution and stuff that all comes with it, doing really well. And it seems like, I mean, even today, like, it seems like the Arrows attack, I know like 2 tries, right? But it seems like the attack, as a whole, like throughout the game, even at the times where maybe there was a knock on, or a handling error, or just a turnover in general that ended the attack. But I thought the attack across the board was flowing a lot better in this game. And then, I mean, the big thing too, man, like winning the breakdown battle, NOLA took, jeez, man, like so many penalties. Many, right?
Yeah, something like 20 penalties over the game.
Yeah, exactly. And when you have a guy like Malcolm, it's like they just make you pay for that. Yeah, and like we said, that was the difference in the game, right?
Yeah. And all right, so we need to move on now, because unfortunately the Arrows wasn't the only game this weekend.
It's the most important game, though.
It was the most important. That's why we've talked about it. But we have to talk about the other games, because there's other Canadians in those games as well. So we need to talk about them. And we start off with the first game of the round, which was DC versus New England. DC 25, New England 41. And this was a runaway performance by the New England players. Gotta admit, I mean, I think they scored like the try bonus point within 30 minutes. Yeah. It was DC. It's gonna be a long season for DC, I feel.
Yeah. I think we mentioned that last week.
Yeah.
I think there's a part of this game, I think, where DC kind of started coming back, making it a little interesting. But, at a certain point, it just becomes the Bodie and Waka show whenever New England's on the turf. And, he had 2 tries.
Tries, but he missed a fair number of penalties. And
yeah, he did miss his fair share. See, that's the thing, right? When you have Sam Malcolm,
so his hands are good, but his feet, not so much.
But, he missed quite a bit there. There's just I don't know, man. Like, it's like good. I think one fun part about this game, I thought too, was the scrum matchup. We had Foster Dewitt as the loose head for New England versus the tight head Jake Ilnicki for Old Glory. So that was pretty much, I mean, that was some fun Canadian content too. And I think Foster Dewitt for the first 3 games, I think looks great. Lots of great, front row prospects look like they're kind of popping out in the league. And even as I'm saying that, I kind of feel guilty in our Arrows analysis, how we did not mention how good Andrew Quattrin was in this game. Just as a slight shift back to the Arrows, because Quattrin had an unreal work rate, lineup throws were on point, made all his tackles. So that's a side tangent, just because I feel bad that I didn't mention Andrew Quattrin during that. I don't think we did anyways, because he deserves a ton of recognition for his performance in that game. But like, I mean, it's nice to see, like, some of the Canadian front row guys kind of popping up around the league and, doing well. Because I think, DeWitt's got three out of 3 starts right now. The NOLA or the New England pack is rolling. With O'Gorman and Larson in the engine room too, and then obviously Jack Reeves making a few plays out in the backs for them. And like I just thought it was good to see, like, DeWitt's ability, and it seems like he's going to be an exciting player. And I think Fraser's been one of Old Glory's best players, one of them through this.
Well, I mean, he was he was the captain in the preseason game. So
yeah, and
they obviously have a lot of
getting. I mean,
investment in him.
He's not going to get like the recognition and getting like, accolades or anything. But like, I mean, every time he touches the ball, I think he makes something happen. It's like, it's if you're a wing on a team that's struggling, though, you're probably not touching the ball that much. But I think he's been good for the first like 3 games. But yeah, man, that team's struggling, and they got the Arrows next week though. So apologies to Doug, Luke, and Jake, but but it looks like they might continue to struggle going into next couple of weeks, man. Same with NOLA, man. NOLA's got a bye week now. I mean, for the Arrows game, they got a lot of soul searching to do themselves right now too.
Well, next up, we had another Eastern contest, but this seemed to be a much closer affair. In fact, we had Rugby ATL 31, New York 36. And this was a close contest as well. It was going back and forth. It looked like New York were going to run away with the game, and then ATL hit them hard with a few tries before New York made them pay. And then ATL got the last try. And I think there was a bit of confusion. People were saying that New York had the last chance to score another try and deny Atlanta losing bonus point, and instead they just kicked it into touch. And I think that if you've been struggling with a team and you've only just been able to put 5 past them, and you've both scored over 30 points, put your pride on the shelf, just kick it into touch, and just begin to recover for like next week's game. Because when you have a bye in week 1, that second bye is looking further and further away. Each week passes. What did you make of this game? Because I thought Andrew Coe starting was fantastic. 2 intercepts, one of which was a try.
Andrew Coe out on the way, looking fantastic in those double.
What is it about Canada Sevens players and being great on the wing?
Great on the wing.
Who'd have thought it?
Yeah, a lot of good. Okay, if you look kind of around the league, a lot of good Canadian wingers, a lot of good Canadian flankers. That is true. 2 positions that we're killing it across the league. And I did also mention the front row. The front row numbers are growing. It's nice to see. First of all, New York, throw out your other jerseys and just wear that every game, please.
Yes.
And that's not to say, I think when we did our our kit reveal show, I like all of your kits.
Yeah.
But this one, maybe wear the black one this week so I can fully decide. But oh my, it looked so good. I love the double blue. I love the double blue stripes or hoops looks amazing. With the collar, fantastic kit, and probably why they won. I think it's the reason. Look good, feel good.
Well, I don't know. NOLA wore their Mardi Gras hooped kits and they didn't win. So
yeah, but Toronto's kit is still like most Mardi Gras kits. Very nice. You recall when I said that that's my favorite Arrows kit ever? What they
I did.
They look good, feel good. It translates.
Yeah,
it translates.
And technically, if all those chevrons loop around, then technically all of those are some form of hoops. So kind of work. Yeah. So I get where the logic comes from. But yeah, absolute nail. But is this going to be another thing of similar to last year where New York beat them during the regular season, but when they play in the postseason, it's Atlanta that is able to edge them out?
I think New York hopes not. But I mean, I think New York's looked good in the 2 games that they've played. Like we said, it's like first off, shout out to Andrew Coe. Had a really nice interception early in the game, and then had a fantastic interception a little bit later that he was able to run back for a very nice, I believe it was a 7-pointer, right under the post. Yeah. So that was awesome. So he gets his first MLR try, which is great. Like I said, it's like already kind of talked about a couple of like good Canadian tries in this game. New York looks dangerous if you get the ball wide. You got Cole on one side, and then Ed Fidow is torching defenders right now.
Yeah.
Like it's tough to run with that guy. Obviously too. And then it's like they balance that too with the fact that they still have Dylan Fawcett in one of the best mauls in the league. Right. So it's tough to stop an attack like that. Right. So the Atlanta side of the ball, Heaton played, Heaton's Matt Heaton. He's always good. I mean, that was it, man. Andrew Cole, the Canadian star of that game though.
Absolutely. Okay, then we head down for 2 games in Texas that both happened at the same time. We're going to talk about the more obvious winners in this one, which was Austin continue with a 3-0 start to the season.
Yeah.
So they won their game 24 to Utah, scoring only 10. It seems to be a bit of a fall from the semi-finalists of last year to go 0-3 at the start of the season. But as we mentioned before, they've there's a lot of players from Utah that aren't there now this year, and it seems to be coming up. Although we also all been watching Inside the Scrum, and they're talking about Austin last year not having finishers to get those tries when they were in the try zone. Seems like they found them. So it seems to be a great start for what. Well, one of the Guild teams was on a bye week, so they couldn't add to their totals. But Austin seemed to be on fire. Well, I mean, their kits look like they're on fire as well.
Their kits look great. The more I watch them, the more I like it.
That black and orange is just such a good color combination.
It is a good color combo. The last names too being the way they're done now, this adds to it. It's fire.
And also the fact the numbers have like a white outline, so it pops even better. So.
You know what? I think the whole thing though, man, it's just like I think, kind of looking at these kits, right? Like, you think Austin puts the last names on the back just so when Damakina goes like hyperdrive, they can like read who just blew by them? Is that like, because I was just that Akina try was nasty. That was just like, I don't know how you I don't know what you do on that. Like, that's just that type of just that speed, and it's just like he finds like the slight gap there. I mean, obviously you can stop speed, right? If you get the players are in good positions, you have good tackling, you can obviously stop speed. But it was like that matchup too. Like the guy he blows by is Mikey Teo.
Yeah,
like
MLR player of the season last year.
Yeah, exactly. Just dusts them. Like it's so that was nuts. Like you said, like Campbell had, like O'Keefe had a couple really nice tries too. O'Keefe had O'Keefe had one heck of a step on Lance Williams to score that try.
Well, we have to now talk about the other game that happened in Texas, because MLR has finally arrived in Dallas.
Game of the week.
Game of the week, definitely, but what a heartbreaker for Dallas. I mean, final score, Dallas 33, and with the last play, a try that gave Houston 38. But, as any Arrows fan from the first home game of 2019 will tell you, you know what? You lose your first home game, you just go on to have 7 consecutive victories at home. Everything will be fine. But let's talk about Mo, because that TMO call is, and I'm putting this in the most diplomatic terms I can, bullshit.
Yep.
I do not agree with it in the slightest. And that's the thing. They've MLR have come out with the disciplinary hearings and results from the season, and there's been absolutely nothing about Mo Abdelmonem. So I think even the citing commissioner is like, that was the wrong call to make.
Yellow cards don't necessarily lead to suspensions anyways, right? Like, you can get a yellow card for intentional knock on. Like, you're not gonna
and to be honest, this is you can be cited without even having been carded. So
yeah, exactly. You can get a yellow card for being the third guy that went offside. Like, it's yellow cards don't mean anything. I don't think yellow cards mean much of anything for like sightings, to be honest. Just because
they're at the same time, it's like a bad call. Like, the decision was wrong.
Yeah, no. So that situation, we'll talk about Mo. I thought Mo played great in the during the game too. He was his usual disruptive self at the breakdown. And I think the one really fun thing, man, if you look at some of the pictures that the Jackals have shared on their social media, right? So Mo obviously runs out as captain for the first home game, and which means that he's the guy that obviously leads out the team out through the tunnel, right? And in this case, in this game, Liam Murray was the loose head prop lining up at number 1. So there's an awesome picture of the Jackals running out onto the pitch for the first time in front of their home fans. And the first two players, really the only two players that are in frame, is Mo Abdelmonem and Liam Murray. So it's a super fun.
That's a good image to have.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a super fun little Canadian content kind of moment in MLR there. Yeah, as for that yellow card, yeah, I don't know. Like Dyer puts his hand in his face, and it doesn't even look like Mo tries to like hit him. It looks like it's more of just like, get your arm out of my face.
Yeah.
Like that comes down. Like I don't like like I think that's like, I don't even think what either one of them did, I don't even think is a penalty. I'm just like, like what
but even then, even if it's a case of like the hand actually had contact with the face.
Oh, like I would still be like,
well, that's it. If you're going by the letters of the law, then that would be Dyer gets a card.
Well, like either way, I think in that one, I don't know, I'll borrow a little bit from hockey or whatever. Yeah. That situation, either both of them go or none of them go.
Yeah.
If both of them went, I'd be like, oh, that's kind of soft, but hey, like whatever. At least it's both of them. But like, both of them got like, for that. If you want to call something, you call it on both of them.
Yeah.
And or let it go.
Yeah.
Like that was nothing.
All right. And the final game.
Well, okay, we have to talk about the ending of this game though. We can't just zone in on like the one yellow card that we're going to be mad at because that somehow all of Canada became angry at the Dallas Jackals Houston SaberCats game. That
it
ended,
did,
man.
Just for the record, it did.
Yeah, it did.
All 39 million of us were
very upset. Yeah, just heartbreaking ending to this game though. I think though, like watching it though, like because Dallas is up by 7, and it's just one of those things where it's like sometimes in rugby, the little details can really bite you if you don't focus or pay attention to the little details. And Hidalgo already had a try in like the 73rd minute, and he comes and he gets the super late try, like the 78th minute, that ultimately ties the game. And it's like he scores that try, he crosses the line on the wing and comes all the way around to touch the ball under the post and get the auto 7. Right. And this is where it's like, again, like, bring it back to some of the rule changes and knowing the rules. Right. Obviously, no matter what league you play in, whether it's whether they make you convert everything or you're playing an MLR where it's a 7-point try for under the post, you ideally want to, dot down under the post. Right. Like even if the MLR didn't have this rule, you want to make that happen for the easier kick.
Yeah.
Right? So no matter what, you want to make that happen. But it's also like, especially in this league where it's like under the post saves time because now they don't have to kick. So it's a super smart move from Hidalgo to identify that there's no Jackal players between him and the posts.
Yeah.
But it's also like, I guess, a collective team brain cramp to be like, to let him do that. You know what I mean? Right. Because that obviously ties the game. And then you have and ties the game, saves enough time on the clock so you don't have to set up a kick. Right. Saves enough time on the clock so you get the next playoff. Obviously, Dallas has the ball and then turns it over, which another thing that you can't do late in the game. Like that final try too, though, in the build up to it, that catch that Gideon Van Wyk makes, the like diving forward one-handed catch just to keep the ball alive, is outstanding.
Yeah.
And like Houston deserves that try. It's heartbreaking, but damn, that's a tough one. And obviously Labuschagne, as we mentioned, got suspended for 3 games for a nasty little forearm shiver. So it's so they're down that. So which will be interesting because Houston seems to have no interest in using their bench very much. Through all the games, through the 3 games that they've played so far, they haven't emptied their bench once.
Yeah, but at least they use Robbie Povey in this game.
Yeah, they did. They
finally
they had to bring him on as a red card.
Yeah.
right? So it's like they had to bring it on. Red card, right? So
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the final game of the weekend, which was San Diego versus Seattle, a replay of the 2019 final. And again, another really close game. San Diego 28, Seattle 31. So Seattle's first away victory of the season. San Diego unable to keep that home record, unfortunately for them. But, it seems as though the seawall is definitely back, and interesting to see that they can now see out games. I did not mean that as a C pun either, but it is what it is. They're saying that Ben Mitchell's reach for the try, there was no TMO review of that, and that may have swung it back into San Diego's favor. But, they don't leave empty-handed. They obviously have the losing bonus point and the try bonus point as well. Rickard Hatting, 2 tries, both at the 40-minute mark and the 61-minute mark as well. But this was a proper ding-dong battle going on as well. It was a close encounter, and I think it's really great to have Seattle back to their 2018, 2019 form.
Yeah, kind of scary.
Instead of just being the whipping boys for the past 2 seasons.
Yeah, like I think like even watching this game, it's Nakai Penny and Travis Larson got in the game at points. Larson had to come and relieve Penny for a little bit. I think it was like a blood sub or something too.
Yeah, right at the start.
Like they kind of played well. I thought one of those things I kind of mentioned a couple times already this year. There's a lot of good Canadian sevens in this league. So Michael Smith versus Nakai Penny, a lot of fun to watch. Penny ultimately, I guess, comes out on top. Him and Larson get to walk away with the win. This game's super interesting too. Like Taveti Lopetti looks like he is gonna be a problem for teams in this league, man. Especially since the guy wearing his opposite number, some dude you may have heard of, named Ma Nanu, and he was the best center on the field, scoring 2 tries. Played really well, man, making some hits, making a lot of things happen for Seattle. Like, I mean, I think, what does he have? He's got like 1 Eagle cap or something.
Yeah, it's definitely in the single digits.
Yeah, one. I think, yeah, like as Canadian fan, like that scares me going forward. He looks good, man.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, speaking of Canadians and Seattle, Reed Watkins got onto the pitch for his first MLR game.
Yep.
As we mentioned, Nakai Penny and Travis Larson. Michael
Smith. Why not Thiel are still yet to feature in a game for San Diego?
So we got Lynott, we got Higgins, we got
Higgins and Thiel,
and Lloyd.
No, Thiel. Oh, Thiel and Lloyd. Yeah,
Thiel and Lloyd. So there's 4. See, this is why they lost. There's 4 Canadians they have on their roster. And they keep using Michael Smith, which is a good start. But you've got all these other Canadians having a look. I'm just saying
that's what we talked about last week, though. Injuries to Pryor and Rob Shaw, the same game opens up a lot of opportunities and stuff for Smith. I think, like you said, it's like looking at some of the positions those guys play. Like, like we said, like with Thiel, like Nanu Mori. Like Nanu and Moriani in front of him, that's tough. Lynott's got a heck of a front row that's in front of him too, and like Ryan Mattias out on the wing. Like, it's competitive.
And who's Jason Higgins up against? Nate Orsberger.
Yeah, Higgins too.
One of the choices for the Eagles as well. So
yeah.
No.
But yeah, you know what?
And I'm just saying, San Diego, if you want to win games, but all 5 Canadians starting.
Emerson Pryor, 1 jersey next week.
Exactly.
Make it happen. Guaranteed wins.
Absolutely. Well, that's it. More Canadians, more wins. That's just how it works. All right. So if you are looking to watch any rugby this weekend, we have good news because the Six Nations is back and you can watch that on DAZN. The Premiership and the URC. Some games may be on Sportsnet. Super Rugby Pacific has now got into its second week, and that will be on TSN. Of course, it'll be on Pacific time, so make sure you stay up late or get up early for those games. Speaking of early games,
you can watch
Japan.
the replays. You can watch the replays.
Well, speaking of early starts, we have Japan League 1. That will be on the Rugby Network, as will any MLR game that is hosted south of the border, except if the Arrows are in those games. Speaking of which, the Arrows will be playing Old Glory DC this Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, and you can watch that on TSN, tsn.ca, and the TSN app. Okay, Derek, we're coming to the end of the podcast, which means it is prediction time. There are only 5 games this week, but we start off with the aforementioned DC versus Toronto.
Toronto, keep the ball rolling. Let's go. Keep I would even be like, unless, I mean, we saw Salmon limp off the field. If no one's hurt, we saw Salmon limp off the field. So I guess we'll wait and see what happens with him. But if nobody's hurt, man, run it back. Same lineup. Let's do it. Keep it rolling.
Now, I know that I said last week about picking a team to win will be the team that lose.
And you got roasted for that too.
Yeah. Did it work?
I guess so. So what are you saying? You're picking DC again?
No, I'm saying you're welcome.
Oh, wow. Well, there you go.
But I think at this point is that that would have worked only for the preseason game, because this is now the second of 4 times that DC will be playing the Arrows this year. So the Arrows already have a victory, and that I can't jinx it. So it has to be Arrows again for me. The second game we have is Seattle versus Austin. So these are 2 unbeaten teams so far in the West. It will be hosted in Seattle. And this has me thinking, Austin have played all their games at home so far. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So this will be Austin's first attempt away from home. Mm-hmm. Seattle have already proven that they can win at home and away. So I am going to go with Seattle.
Oh, you're going Seattle?
Yeah.
Ooh, I feel like this is one of those games that's just fun to pick against you for no reason.
All right, Austin it is.
For Austin, yeah, let's go. Let's see.
Okay.
Let's see if the if the seawall's back. Let's see if the new Austin attack, how it holds up to it.
Okay, next up we have Dallas versus New York. So Dallas obviously got the heartbreak against Houston, but New York were able to beat Houston. Does that mean they can also beat Dallas? Derek, who do you have?
I feel like it's going to be a lot. That's going to be my thinking for a lot of games. I mean, after last week, I'm cheering for Dallas, but I think New York's going to win.
I think New York's going to win.
But I'm cheering for Dallas. If I lose one pick this week, I hope it's that one.
Okay, well, I'm going to have faith in Captain in Mo.
Nice.
So
I like it.
I will go
Mo versus Co. That's how we can build it.
That is, yeah, Mo versus Co. All right.
Yeah, that's
filling that one up. Here. Well, that's if Andrew Coe gets selected, because you never know what may happen. But I think he's been in the good graces of the New York selectors, so I believe so. Okay, you got another match in Texas. It is Houston versus San Diego. So Houston are now 2-1. San Diego are also now 2-1. This will be San Diego's first road trip of the season, and I am really struggling for this.
I know, yeah, this seems like a good one.
Yeah. Houston have it's ironic that Houston are called the Saber Cats, because I believe they are Schrodinger's cat of MLR. They're either really good and will win it, or they'll lose it at the end.
It's also like, I mean, I don't think they had a great game when they beat LA, as weird as that is to say. We kind of talked about that.
So who are you picking?
San Diego. I'm gonna take San Diego. I don't have faith in Houston still.
Okay. All right. In that case, then, just for the sake of options, I will go with Houston. So I'm going to keep it in Texas. I'm picking Dallas and Houston. Okay. And the final matchup this week, because there's only 5 games, is LA versus New England. Now, New England were also the first team to play LA back last season in 2021. And LA got the ball rolling, literally, against New England. Do you think it'll be more of the same, or do you think the Free Jacks will?
Has LA lost at home yet in the Coliseum?
Yes, they've lost against NOLA Gold last season.
Oh, they did. They did. Wow. New England. Why not? Let's go. New England. Why not?
You know, I'm going to agree with you on this one because
okay.
Because
wasn't expecting that, but all right.
Because that's it. I think, well, New England are 3-0 at the moment. LA have won one and lost one, and the one they won seemed to come about more capitalizing on errors than succession of play. So I'm going to go with New England. And also, as we said, once Bowden Walker makes his decision with his hands, then game sorted, isn't it? So just to go over those again, we have Derek has picked Toronto, and I picked Toronto. For Seattle, Austin. Derek has picked Austin. I picked Seattle. For Dallas, New York. Derek has picked New York, and I picked Dallas. For Houston, San Diego. Derek picked San Diego, and I picked Houston. And for LA versus New England, we have both picked New England. And if you would like to find out the Toonies picks, you can find out on our TikTok account, which is at the Rouge Rugby. In fact, if you want to message us on any form of social media platform, we're on them all at the Rouge Rugby, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We are also available by email at the Rouge Rugby Podcast at gmail.com. And if you enjoyed this episode, you can listen to others on Spotify or Anchor FM, or you can watch them on our YouTube channel. Now, speaking of YouTube, if you're watching this, you can see our handles below us. Derek, for those that are listening, where can they find you?
Yeah, app Reset the Jet across basically every social media platform. And I've always said this at the end of the episodes, but that was never my name on Reddit until earlier this week, where I actually decided to change it to Reset the Jet. So Reset the Jet on Reddit now too, even though I've been saying on every platform for the past like year and a half. Now it's actually on every platform. So there you go.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram. My handle is Hardman, spelled H4RDMAN. Well, that's it for this week's episode of the Rouge Rugby. Derek, thank you for joining me as always, and thank you for joining us. We hope you can join us again next time.